shirtinc.com. Phone 888-626-7636. My Saturday forecast, partly to mostly sunny today. Temperatures will be in the mid to upper 80s, light south winds. A chance of a shower or thunderstorm overnight, partly to mostly clear in the mid 60s. Watch out for some morning fog. That fog will lift and dissipate a Sunday morning, then partly sunny with a chance of afternoon and evening showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures tomorrow in the low 70s. Mostly sunny near 70 Monday. Your life, your music. We're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. U.S. President Donald Trump says he will pull out of the Iran nuclear deal unless the U.S. Congress and allied countries can agree on tougher terms. The Indian Supreme Court has told the Indian government it cannot deport Rohingya refugees until a hearing on the matter is over. And ride-hailing service Uber has filed an appeal against the decision not to award it a license in London.
It's 12:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for our Thoughts on the Matter, a program offering opinions from all sides of the issues concerning local, state, and national topics of importance to the Jonesboro community. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, donors, or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good afternoon to you on your Saturday. It's October 14th, 2017, and it is homecoming. Go Red Wolves. Go ahead and get that W against Coastal Carolina, okay? And Helen is getting her howl on. And speaking of Helen, we do have Helen Scott. Also, we have Amanda Donovan and Brad Dowden. Of course, this is Cato Wonder. And
Heidi.
Today we're going to talk about, unfortunately, not the prettiest of topics, but, you know, we have to talk about what is going on in the community. And we're going to talk about the recent gun violence that was in the community. And before we begin our discussion, I just want to reference this editorial that appeared in the October 12th edition of the Jonesboro Sun, and it reads as follows: until victims, witnesses work with police, gun violence will escalate. We may be preaching to the choir, but gun violence in Jonesboro is getting out of hand, and the lack of cooperation from victims and witnesses is escalating the violence. Several cases in recent months have us shaking our heads in disbelief. Why wouldn't victims of violence and witnesses to those crimes not work with police to put the bad guys, gals behind bars? It makes no sense. If it's a cultural phenomenon that snitching on a suspect undermines one's credibility within a certain community, then the culture needs to change, or the violence in that community will continue to escalate. If it's a fear of reprisal that the friends or family of a suspect would retaliate, then it's easier to understand. However, not standing up to violence will only embolden those committing the violence to perpetuate more. Getting these gun thugs off of the streets is the only way for the violence to end, to send the message that gun violence will put perpetrators in prison for long sentences. The recent upsurge in gun violence in Jonesboro is a desperate call for all residents to work with police. Last Saturday, a 26-year-old woman suffered 3 non-lethal gunshot wounds, was hospitalized, and later released. Neither she nor witnesses to her shooting will fully cooperate with police. Some even gave misleading statements about where the shooting occurred. Jonesboro Police Public Information Officer David McDaniel told the Sun witnesses were given the detective in charge of the investigation differing accounts of what happened. No one has been arrested in the shooting. They are stating different locations for the shooting and changing details of what occurred, McDaniel said. He has only received limited information from the victim and has not been able to speak to her in detail because of her recovery. Yet, the victim has been released from the hospital. That's a clear indication she's not cooperating. Why? Then on October 1st, Benjamin Scott was shot on Ray Street and taken to the hospital. The subject in that shooting, Antonio Dwayne Funches, has yet to be apprehended. Police say the victim and witnesses have yet to provide officers with information that could help in the case. Because of a lack of evidence from witnesses and the victim, the case has been listed inactive pending further information. Then there's Cordell Hughes, 26, of Jonesboro, who's had several run-ins with police for shooting people in the past year. In May, police say he shot a man in the foot after robbing him. 2 days later, he was arrested for attacking his girlfriend, biting her cheek, bicep, hands, feet, calf, and threatening her to kill her with a shotgun. That followed a September 26, 2016 attack on a man who was shot on Fairview Drive, once in the stomach and once in the thigh. Police said Hughes pulled the trigger. In May, Hughes was only sentenced to probation after pleading guilty to first-degree battery and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Several factors played into the probation officer, former Deputy Prosecutor Grant DeProw said. There were no eyewitnesses willing to identify Hughes as the shooter, the Proud Soul Sun reporter Stephen Simpson. The victim wouldn't cooperate. Hughes is now awaiting trial in January for crimes he's charged with in May after being released on probation that same month, and the vicious cycle continues. How are police to solve crimes of gun violence and put these people in prison when neither the victims nor witnesses are willing to work with authorities? It must be exhausting for detectives to work these cases when they can't even get the victims to cooperate. The amount of time wasted investigating these cases is also a drain on other police activities to thwart crime in our community, as well as a waste of tax dollars. And think about the future crimes that will occur, like the killing of a 28-year-old man Tuesday night whose body was found in the middle of the 900 block of Logan Avenue, the fifth homicide of 2017. A 26-year-old Jonesboro man has been arrested on suspicion of first-degree murder. Detectives are pleading for anyone with information to contact them about the killing. But Daniel said witnesses are openly talking about the homicide, which contributed to the quick arrest and the murder. Let's hope their resolve remains and this case results in a just life sentence for the perpetrator. It is a sad state of affairs with all the gun violence erupting in Jonesboro. It is up to the residents of our fair city to put an end to it. The police can't do their jobs and we won't help, and the violence will continue. And that was an editorial in the October 12th, 2017 edition of the Jonesboro Sun. I know it was a long read, but want to give people the background. And now I will turn it over to the panel.
Well, I think that I don't know if I can speak for everyone here, but I'm thinking that we want to express our condolences to the victims and their families of the ones that passed and the ones that are recovering, and that you guys have a very speedy and good recovery, first and foremost.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the whole time throughout the entire article, it's
heartbreaking.
Well, yes, it is extremely heartbreaking, and I don't think any of us at this table can truly reflect what it would be like to have someone taken from us like that. Truly and personally. I don't know everybody's background, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, I've never lost someone to a gun shooting, but I've lost people to natural causes, and that hurts. And obviously, losing someone
hurts hard enough, but it's
losing someone suddenly because of
someone else's actions. The whole theme of this was there are people that know what happened. There are people that saw what happened, and they're just purposely not, providing information. And, we talk about we don't want things like this to happen, yet we don't do anything about it.
We turn the other cheek.
It's not even turning the other cheek. It's just absolutely refusing for people that know what went on. I get it. You probably don't want to say something about someone else, maybe for fear of yourself or, street cred. I don't know. But if you don't want things like this to continue to happen, if you don't want to feed the cycle, it's got to stop somewhere.
And what I want to put out there to you guys, and even to the people who are watching, and shout out to Mr. Chu. Mr. Chu let out a big old howl on our Facebook live stream. But, the main thing that you hear is the fear of reprisal, fear of retaliation. Unfortunately, the police cannot be everywhere at the same time, and and I think that fear is really there. Not just a person can't watch their back at all time, but even their family members. There's been incidences where a person did turn in a perpetrator, and next thing something happens to a family member, especially a vulnerable, maybe even an elderly family member. So I guess the thing is, how can people feel safe enough to where they can come forward?
Don't we have a number for Crime Stoppers where we can call and anonymously?
We do, Amanda, but let me put this scenario to you.
Okay.
Let's say that Brad commits a crime.
Shame on you, Brad.
And I'm the only person that just happened to be around to witness it. I'm minding my business. Well, I turned Brad in. Well, by process of elimination, the only person that saw was me. So, even if I call in Crime Stoppers and turn Brad in and I get my little check and
Brad knows who did it still.
And so, even if he doesn't, let's say that his friends, come to my, let's see, I don't have my mom and my grandmother no longer living, but let's just assume my mother was still alive, and next thing you know, my mom in Helena, Arkansas gets shot. I think that's...
It goes on and on. You never know where the family members are, and it could reach different states and come back around, and it could affect all type of things. It could go from one incident to possibly a much bigger, and these are not just one, these are multiple incidences, whether they're connected
in a short
or not.
period of time.
Yes. And so that leads you to think about other things such as,
Gang related.
are
drugs.
they all connected or are they all disconnected? So the community has to deal with this also, because just like the officers want answers, the community is also having to deal with this. And like you say, the officers can't be everywhere at the same time, and no one wants to really look over their shoulders all the time. And will we really be able to call police if we are afraid of retaliation? How often will they get tired of answering that phone call before it becomes a nuisance? And let's just say hypothetically, you guys, if someone is turned in and they did not do it, but they want to definitely close this case, or people just think this person did it, it's going to take a lot of investigation still to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so no innocent person goes to jail or is further harmed due to this. Because let's say the streets be talking, and sometimes that's almost a court system in and of itself. I think that we talked about it on another episode about other coaches and how they deal with violence. They deal it within their own communities. They don't really do a whole lot of reaching out, and so therefore we don't hear a lot about what they go through. But let's just say if this were me or someone that I know, yes, I would definitely want answers. I would want answers, and whether it be to law enforcement or from law enforcement, I would want answers, because people go to law enforcement for answers also. Not just for help, but also for answers in knowing what happened to their child, their brother, their husband. So they definitely need something, at least to be able to say, to give closure and to effectively investigate this, and not just go on a manhunt. Just to be, that's what I would want them to effectively investigate, not just hurry up and want to close it, and no innocent person to go to jail, and if possibly no further harm to come throughout the community, because no one, as far as I know, no one knew that this was going to happen. So a lot of it was just really random. And if anything was going to happen that people know about, they didn't speak up beforehand, as you was talking about, Brad, stopping it before it starts. How many times do you know of a person calling in and saying, I am thinking that this person is looking for me and I need you to find them before they get to me? I think this is about as rare as saying, this is exactly who I saw did it and here's a picture. But you guys, we definitely do need it to be less violence.
Yes.
We understand that sometimes things get heated for whatever reason, but if you do have a problem with someone, definitely see if you can handle it in a more civil manner.
Talk it out. It's a whole lot better. And if you can't talk, might as well just turn around and walk away. It is not worth it.
Yes.
No matter what it is, a human life is not worth it.
Bringing it back to what I said earlier, I think what probably needs to happen is some kind of measure taken to ensure people's safety if they do turn themselves in. Maybe some education on how people can protect themselves. Probably more of an outreach, because I think that attitude is going to definitely have to change. People are going to have to feel safer and feel empowered so that they can report things that they see, because until that changes, I think the cycle is just going to continue.
I have an anecdote.
Well, let's bring Brand in
Yes.
for a second.
Oh,
Because you look at me like you want to say something. And Helena just spoke, so I want to try to
Yes,
make sure.
definitely.
when everybody talks, I focus and I watch them. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it still goes back to, and I agree with all of you actually here. At what point do you? I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought. I apologize.
I
apologize.
I think you're saying at what point, you say enough is enough. And
Yes.
unfortunately, with a lot of people, I think that happens when it's actually at their doorstep.
Oh no, I remember what I was gonna say now. I mean, at what point do you, in your community, when you see tragedies like this happen, at what point do you make the judgment call that I will not say anything, but in the meantime, things continue to occur? How can you, as a person with a conscience, and how can you know who has caused these tragedies to happen and just sit back and let it continue? How can you watch it to continue?
How can you morally do it?
Some people just live
I
their life.
think it goes back to
about
that fear thing. I don't think these people lack morals or
Some-
don't care. I think
Well,
Some
prime
people
example.
are used to that life.
If I saw something happen, and if I saw something happen to you, okay, and I know what happened, and I sit back and I just hold it back. I don't really say anything where, that person that caused that can be, I guess, treated the way they should be. And then later on, that same person causes another incident, causes no more harm, takes another life. I mean, at that point, that burden is
On you.
is on me.
Yeah, and that's certainly a salient point.
And so then, I mean, how do you justify keeping that information back and allowing someone else to see that same tragedy? I mean, do you not care?
Well, I think in a case like this, I think people need to come together because there is strength in numbers. I mean, maybe one person or a couple people may be afraid, but if the community comes together as a group saying, because at the end of the day, they can't retaliate against all of them.
Right. You need to stand up and voice.
And of course, another thing that, because I'm the type of person, I'm always looking for possible solutions. And even if the people can't speak, technology can speak. People can take measures to secure their property. People can install cameras on their property. And of course, video cameras they got like $50 to have. You can put like the micro SD card in them, mount them, and they can record for hours on end. And so then you don't have to snitch. The camera can snitch for you. Like,
some neighborhoods have that. I don't know. I used to live over there on Ray Street, and I remember that there was an incident that happened in which me and my children, we moved as soon as we got back in town. There was a death that happened over there. It was over a holiday. And I came into town, and the young lady told me that there had been someone shot, and their body was found in the middle of the street on the exact street I lived in, and I moved. Because at that point, it was an issue of safety for me and my children. And yes, beforehand, I had heard that I had heard bullets flying. When you hear a gunshot and you don't know what it is, and then other people know what it is, and they have to tell you what it is, then that's a real eye awakening. But there were not arrests over there all the time. There were not police over there all the time, and they have cameras over there. So you still get put back in a position of constant element of safety, and I think that maybe it outnumbered what the police was able to do, or something else happened. But there was they have the cameras over there. Then as far as I know, that case still did not get solved. They had flyers up and they were asking people to come forth.
I just don't understand how, as a human being, how can you do that to another human being?
To kill them?
Well,
we could go into a whole nother show on that.
That and the fact that, like Brad was discussing, and I'm glad Brad brought it up, but as a human being, that was somebody's sister, that was somebody's brother, somebody's cousin. So how would you feel if that was done to you? Wouldn't you want your family to know?
Oh, definitely I would. And sometimes people do know things and they do not go and tell the police because they handle it on their own, because they feel like maybe the police won't do it. If you don't have enough evidence against the person, because you still have to be able to connect the dots. And from everything that we were saying, it's just that people are not willing to release the information, and maybe they do want to handle it on their own, and it will
and then
get
they're
handled.
just perpetuating the cycle.
They're perpetuating the cycle.
Well, at that point.
They'll go to jail and they'll have to deal with what they did, but you still need that evidence. And even if they don't get that evidence.
And of course, they can't get the evidence if people don't come forward.
That's right.
Yes.
You know.
You tuned our thoughts on the matter. We're talking about the recent gun violence in Jonesboro. You can give us a call if you want to weigh in at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. You can also weigh in on our Facebook Live feed. Got a couple shout outs. Shout out to Adam Lee Willis, and of course
Mr. Adam?
Our very own Quabila Jones, who is checking in.
Hey, Q.
So let us know what you think.
I just can't. From Mr. Chu.
We already talked about the how.
No, it was even further.
Okay, let me hit refresh on my screen there we go. Mr. Chu says, sounds like the majority of the gun violence in Jonesboro was from one individual, and please don't forget how often those who call for help and end up needing help themselves, most just don't want to add more troubles to their own current pile of issues. And Adam Lee Willis says, hey guys.
Hi Adam.
All right, so anyone want to respond to what Chu said?
That has a lot of truth to it. You know,
So-
some people may already have something, like I was saying, that
But that's
they
just
live that
add-
life and they already have a whole lot. Kind of like if you see something and some people just keep walking like they don't see it. You know, we went the issue of homelessness. How can you not?
I know people
do
like
something?
that. I just don't understand it, and I
True.
guess I never will. Because
True.
to me, that's like turning your back.
True. You know,
On-
people
on your
just have a
neighbor.
different.
All right,
people
well,
just have a
Brad,
different
you
code.
have any thoughts on this?
So was part of the statement saying that they don't want to call in?
Well, I'll reread it. It
No,
said-
I mean I'm just interpreting. I think I know what it read. Is it interpreting to the point that we're saying that certain people don't want to call in to offer information or assistance because they are scared of what they are guilty of already? Is that what you're saying?
Chew, if you are still watching on our live feed, can you?
It's like I don't want
clarify
to.
that?
Is that what we were saying? Is that somebody might not want to call in and give information because when they go and talk to, let's just say, for example, me, that I'm going to get in trouble for my things?
While we wait to see if Chew weighs in, you know, and that is a good point, and that could be a possibility. You know, some of these. I remember when I was doing my ride along with CPA, and even times when Chief Elliott's come on, you know, he's talked about sometimes where bad guys will, you know, turn in other bad guys to clear the way, or you have the opposite where a bad guy don't want to come forward because then they may say, well, if I turn this person in, they may start looking at my own record and I may have warrants out, and then they arrest me.
Yes, or they just may have a day-to-day life that they don't want to have interrupted, because now if let's just say someone does say something and it leads to something, will the
You
police
got to
not
testify
go?
sooner or later.
You know, nobody may want to take that be put in that limelight. They just may want to still have their average, everyday, ordinary life. Not everyone is as outspoken as we are about things that do happen. Some people, they just don't want to have that pressure put on their
And it's
spotlight
interesting you
put
bring
on
it
them.
up, Helen, because as we get ready to go to break, I just want to mention I was reading an article about the Nelly situation and the lady that accused him of raping her, and she's basically refusing to cooperate further, and part of it was that she just didn't want the attention that was being brought to her because she accused a celebrity of
I read
raping
an article
her.
on that earlier.
So,
That actually she
it
completely told the police to drop it.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. You're tuned to Our Thoughts on the Matter. Don't go anywhere. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Our Thoughts on the Matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Angie with your KLEK Learn Spanish Minute. Más despacio, por favor. More slowly, please.
Más despacio, por favor.
Repita, por favor. Again, or repeat, please.
Repita, por favor.
Perfecto. No entiendo. I don't understand.
No entiendo.
Lo siento. I'm sorry.
Lo siento.
Despacio, por favor. Slowly, please.
Despacio, por favor.
Repita, por favor. Repeat, please.
Repita, por favor.
I'm Angie, and that was your Learn Spanish Minute on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. The all-new Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
Support for KLEK is brought to you by
Fullness of Joy Ministries, 2120 Thorn Street, Jonesboro, under the direction of Bishop Adrian Rogers and co-pastor Susan Rogers. www.fjministries.org.
Did you know that KLEK 102.5 FM is a non-profit organization? Did you know that you can donate to KLEK 102.5 FM and your donation is tax deductible? Donations to non-profit organizations such as KLEK can reduce the amount of taxes you may owe the IRS stress, or increase the amount of any potential tax refund. Support your KLEK today. You can donate by calling 870-277-1080, visiting our studio at 1411 Franklin Street in Jonesboro, or on our website www.klekfm.org. We at KLEK 102.5 FM are blessed and grateful for your support. From the KLEK Community Calendar.
The My Healthy Jonesboro pop-up at Wolverine Park at the corner of Aggie and North Patrick on Friday, October 20th from 5 to 8:30 p.m. Imagine what a new mixed-use park space for Jonesboro would be like at the location of the old Wolverine shoe plant between downtown Jonesboro and Arkansas State University. A free concert with Corey Jackson, special exercise and activity classes. It's a pet-friendly event and costumes are welcome. Local craft vendors and food trucks, including Hal on Wheels from A-State, Boro Dogs, and the Lost Pizza Company. Special education programs from the UA Extension Office, the Northeast Arkansas Bicycle Coalition, Youth Move Arkansas, Out of the Dark, NEA Baptist, St. Bernard's Medical Center, and the NYIT College of Osteopathic Medicine. It's My Healthy Jonesboro's pop-up at Wolverine Park, the corner of Aggie and North Patrick, Friday, October 20th from 5 to 8:30 p.m.
And now back to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back to our thoughts on the matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you. I'm joined by Amanda Donovan, Helen Scott, and Brad Dow. And and we're talking about the gun violence in Jonesboro. And of course, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080, or you can weigh in on our Facebook live feed. And we got a few comments. Mr. Chu clarified what he said earlier. He said that is one point in making the other is there's things happening where the one that calls goes to jail or risks their life if the person gets out of jail or they get the wrong officer. Well, Chu, what do you mean by get the wrong officer? Adam Lee Willis says, I believe we all know that our town is broken up into districts, east side, west side, north side, and south side. I challenge each of you to tell me what each district is known for and question yourself why those districts are known for that. Malika Francois is listening from another state. Well, what state are you listening from? And I just want to say hello to everyone, and also to my beautiful cousin, Miss Helen Scott. Thanks for the invite.
Love you.
Adam Lee Willis says, like the studio when I get back in town, I'd love to see the setup with Adam. Feel free to come by. We'd love to show it to you. So, guys, what do you think about what's being said on our live feed?
A couple more comments down below.
Okay.
Too.
Also, Mr. Chu, yeah, looks like it's jumping off.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chu said most people of color don't trust police in the first place, thus they'd rather not get themselves involved with others. Feel the streets would do a better job getting justice. Gail Raspberry, who we just had on Community Conversations, says we will continue to have this problem, gun violence in general, as long as some people continue to believe that another human being deserves to die. Mr. Chu says guns, knives, rocks. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what they use. Violence is violence. Getting rid of guns will simply
make it worse.
Increase the rest.
Yes, because.
So I thought that's what you were saying earlier of trying not to.
When Adam says we'll do in 2 weeks.
And and I was just curious, and I know we spoke about it earlier. Maybe we could actually have someone from JPD either comment or something. Do we have a form? I know we have the Crime Stoppers line, but are there any other avenues that a person can actually give information a certain level of anonymity? Do we have anything other than that?
I think that's the only thing. I mean, the only other thing I would guess is
texting,
kind of like they
email.
for the gun.
I think maybe contacting local media. I know sometimes on our page, I mean, we don't get people who report crimes, but I know people will message the KLEK Facebook page if they have like a grievance or something with the city. In fact, I had an incident of a lady who was having issues with her ditch, and I put her in touch with the people at City Hall that could help, and I even explained, if you're not getting, and my catfish and the fish tank are having a wrestling match. In the mood.
Kato, real quick, I know it's something that we were discussing that one of the next to last posts from Adam Lee Willis. He brought up something about this, that it is a factor in it also.
Okay, let's see. Adam, he says, I'm not of color and see the problems with trusting police you don't know on a first name basis. That's an idea. Contact the media. Well, Brad, go ahead and finish with yours.
That was just one of my questions, is because I'm not entirely certain. Are there other ways that the Jonesboro Police has for civilians to contact when they have information other than just the basic little Crime Stoppers. Because I think maybe just kind of going along with his comment was that I feel like if someone could stay truly anonymous, which I know certain records have to be taken still.
Because not to cut you off, I just want to toss this in right quick. I mean, like with the Crime Stoppers, I mean, if you're going to collect the money, at some point your identity would be known to write the check.
Right. And I'm not even going down that avenue. I'm just simply saying that, you know, if someone could actually, without risk of their name being publicized, actually bring forth good information that helps combat some of these crimes or put the people away that actually caused them, do you feel, and Mr. Chu, do you feel that would be a suggestion and helpful?
And another thing,
that's definitely something we can ask Chief Elliott next time.
That's why I asked you that question when he comes.
Well, he comes the first Wednesday of each month, so y'all just make sure to remind me to ask him. Let's see, Adam. Before we bring back Amanda, Adam says downside is spin. Okay, well, I don't know if you mean by the media or by the person that would report, but while we wait for you to check in, Amanda.
We're talking about, you know, having issues with the police department. He was talking about, well, we're in fear of the police. Okay, I can understand that. I can understand that. But that is the problem. These people are paid and entrusted for our safety of our community.
It's fear on both sides, it sounds like.
That's right.
You have to deal with the community.
You know, the police officer's worried about getting shot, and this guy's worried about the same thing if not going to jail.
Well, I will say that Jonesboro Police Department has made strides.
Right, and I was about to bring that up. Thank you.
I mean, is it perfect? Is there still room to go? Absolutely.
Yes,
You know,
but we're closer than
no matter what,
started.
there's still going to be some people that have misgivings from the police department, and this cuts across all races as well. I mean, because you know, if you go on any post in local media about someone getting arrested, you can see people from all stripes that have different things to say.
All streams of ethnics and diversity and money.
But I think with the community outreach, and I guess I use this opportunity to promote something that KLEK is helping with Officer Blake Easley of the Jonesboro Police Department. They're having Trunk or Treat October 26th on between Melrose and Marshall Street. It's going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. Donations are needed, especially for candy. So Officer Easley needs as many people to bring candy as possible. You can just show up, bring your candy, or if you can't be out there, you can bring your donation to the Jonesboro Police Department. This is something that Officer Easley is doing. This is not an official JPD event. This is something that he does. This is an area that he patrols, and he sees, you know, the struggles of these children in these neighborhoods, and he wants to help them. And I'm going to be out there DJing. And I've been talking to some people about
last year. It was really good.
Donate, and of course there will be various law enforcement out there, all the police departments from around JPD, UPD, Sheriff Department, just from state troopers. They're going to be from all over the place, and things like this will help to bridge the gap in the community. Because if the officers, and this has been a big part of Chief Elliott's platform, if the officers actually get involved in their community, then that kind of helps with the distrust. Of course, it's going to still somewhat be there. We're going to be realistic, but it will definitely help out. So once again, Trunk or Treat, October 26th. Please donate candy. Please come out as you can. Spacewalker Jonesboro will have a bounce house slide, and of course, Diego Ranch is going to have a donkey out there for the kids as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Kato, I want to rewind it back real quick because I see a common thread within the Facebook Live, and I do also understand this as being a member of society, that we need to be able to trust our officers just like they want to be able to trust us. That's something that it keeps going out there and coming back in. We need to be able to trust our officers. If the police department wants to be able to have a good relationship with the community, that if something happens, they know that they can go and let it be known and have it took care of and not have to deal with backlash on both sides of it. Nobody wants to have a training day situation.
And I will say this to you, and Helen, I will say this in response to you. Then when I go to the Facebook feed, and at least under Chief Elliott's tenure, he has striven to do that, not just by the community involvement, but you know, he has made sure that his officers operate in an ethical manner. I think you saw a few weeks ago where an officer was terminated because he was filling up other people's cars instead of his patrol car. So Chief, you know, does have a zero tolerance for anything unethical, and he is tried his best to hold those officers to the highest standards so that that trust can be there.
Maybe the other side of that coin, though, is that, we hear, like you were just saying, that certain communities, certain groups, they don't trust law enforcement. Well, has anybody, and I'm not saying that they haven't, but has anybody just truly tried to step up and actually be a liaison for their group to help build that trust instead of just, perpetuating the
I think
the
we
mind?
I have.
I know,
this
but
platform.
there's sub areas around the cities and things like that, and things go, well, we don't trust them. Well, instead of just, building the mindset of not to trust, it's going to take someone from each side to bridge the gap.
We need it to be a good
and let me not to cut you off.
Yeah.
And I think, Brad, that's where the Citizens Police Academy ambassadors come from, because by inviting for citizens to come out and get a taste for what police do, and that was definitely an experience I enjoyed, and it definitely is an eye-opener. And I would encourage anyone, whether you are pro-police or anti-police, to take CPA, and they're very open-minded. In fact, the people that are anti-police, those actually are the main ones that they want, not to beat them over the head, but just say, hey,
this is what's going on.
This is how we do it, and come with an open mind. And by having those ambassadors, and of course our own Mrs. Farrell also went through the program as well. Those are the people that can go into the various communities, the various sects, and talk about and start that conversation to bridge the gap.
And that's why I really said what I did, is because you made the comment. Yes, our local police department, there might be a bad apple, but overall our chief does he strives very hard to actually be involved in the community and bring people together, and that's a good thing to see. And I don't know, you can kind of relate it to growing up as children. There were certain foods we won't eat, and then you finally try it and you're like, okay, I like this.
All right,
give it a chance.
All right, let's go back to the comments. Mr. Chu says wrong officer equals the ones that came in contact with people like Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice. Adam says not fear. I'm aware of their demeanor and mindset. And he says, I agree, there must be the standard of good and trustworthy, not RoboCop.
My question is this more fear versus, with the police department and retaliation, or is it more the stigma of being quote unquote a rat?
I think it's a bit of both.
It's a bit of both.
There's, like I said, there's some mistrust, and then there's some fear. And kind of going back to what I said at the beginning of the conversation, police can't be around at all times to protect, not just the person who may actually report the crime, but friends, family, even children. We live in a messed up world. People. Now, nothing seems to be off limits. And of course, the two ladies are parents, us guys, we aren't. but as mothers, both you Amanda and you Helen, I'm sure the last thing that you would want with someone to target your children.
Yes, you definitely don't want it spreading any more than it needs to. That way it turns it into something even worse. But as far as the violence goes, I don't know personally, and if I did know, then yes, would you want someone to let someone else know? I remember you used to go back to, you wouldn't tell the police, but you would go and find that person's grandmother, mother, tell someone in the family, so they definitely would be able, and that's how it used to be handled. As far as bringing in officers, we need to be able to trust. I'm not talking about the stuff they put out there polished up and clean. I'm talking about real deal. This is how this really operates. Whenever the cameras are not around, whenever someone does not have to look good, the real deal, how our police force is within the community, that needs to be something, a trusted element that we have to go to, so we don't have to handle things in-house. But when it comes to handling things in-house, maybe it can be done to where it doesn't go just haywire.
And just in response to what you said about let me go back to the comment. The ones that came in contact with people like Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice. Well, I can say just from what I know, I think that's the last thing that Chief Elliott and Mayor Perrin want for Jonesboro.
Right.
Exactly. And those were horrible situations that happened.
Yes.
Hear me, those were bad situations. Those were bad people that caused that. But that does not mean every single law enforcement officer is that way. There are really, really good ones out there.
That's true.
That
right.
even when there are citizens that disrespect them day in and day out, they are still there to care.
Yes.
And you've got to give them a chance, or you will never trust them. We'll have people that are still out there not wanting to actually take care of their community when they could.
And one thing I also wanted to add to that, one thing that we've tried to do here at KLEK in conjunction with Jonesboro Police Department is we've tried to help to recruit officers of a variety of backgrounds to diversify the police department, because like I've said to Chief several times when he's been on, I feel the police department should look like the community that it serves. And plus, when it does, those people who may come from different backgrounds, they can relate their experiences to those officers. And I'll just even something simple as like if you have a Hispanic officer and you run into his situation with Hispanics, well, because that officer can more likely would be fluent in Spanish, you know, can relate to that situation, whereas someone that's from another race or another background may not have any clue. So by having a diverse force of all backgrounds, not just black, white, but Hispanic, Asian. In fact, we even have a Middle Easterner on the police force. Saw him in Walmart the other day. But by having this diverse background, I think it helps to change the culture within. So that's one of the things that we try to do here at KLEK is to, you know, encourage people to sign up from all backgrounds. You know, or I guess I can put it as plain as this: be the change in which you seek.
Yes.
Amen.
Brad, in answer to what you're talking about, I just thought about it. We can have like a follow-up to whatever information comes in through whichever officer. That way it makes sure that it does not get to the wrong officer, and even if it does, someone else needs to be asking questions, especially if it's part of the investigation. Maybe not let it just lay on one or two members, especially if it comes to a death, and making sure that it is properly handled. You don't want one officer handling it, maybe not him or his partner, but it has to be a whole system of people making sure that this is handled from the time this report comes in to the time it gets investigated and gets closed, that it is properly handled. That way, if something does happen negatively, then you have people that's already at the alert and can track down and see where that bad is.
Well, let's go back to Facebook, because we have a comment from Officer Nathan Coleman of the Jonesboro Police Department. Nathan says, people record the police all the time. They typically don't post when cops do it right. There are hundreds of thousands of videos of cops getting it right, but those don't go viral. Well,
amen, Nathan.
Well, Nate, you were right about that. Not just police interactions, that's just society in general. Positive things don't get posted, but I mean, there are positive things that, at least in this community, that the police officers do. So once again, a plug for Trunk or Treat, October 26th, 5 to 7 p.m. between Marshall and Melrose. Donate candy, y'all. The more candy, the better. Or if you got anything else that you think kids may be interested, or if you just want to see some police dancing and dropping it like it's hot.
Oh Lord, I'm bringing
I saw that last
candy.
year. That was bad.
I'm bringing healthy candy.
Hey, at least they were having a good time.
I will say it was a very good time in the community last year. So if you've got younger children, you know, it's a good place to take them if you're worried about it.
You guys, I'm bringing healthy candy, so y'all
well, I can't promise the kids to eat that.
And what would that be? What is healthy candy?
Gluten free or sugar free?
You have veggies, you know, carrots and stuff, and those individual.
Well, that's
packages.
not candy. That's food.
It's sugar, but then there's also like those ones that's made from better ingredients. You know, I like certain things. Black Forest, they have one, and then they have other places I go to and shop that it's all natural and it tastes a little bit better. So yeah.
All right, let's go back to the feed. Chu says, I agree. I only mentioned them to explain because I was asked to define wrong officer. Show that there is such thing as a wrong officer, that's not to overshadow the right ones. Well, again, Chu,
agreed.
Like I said, there are good and there are bad officers. And we're blessed to know that the majority of the officers in the Jonesboro Police Department
not a police joke. I bet dollars to donuts there are tons of positive officers out there that outweigh the one or two bad ones you hear about.
But I will throw this out there. I think one concern that people do have is that there's a perception, there's a thought that the good officers don't actually call out the bad officers within their department. Of course, I don't know what the inner workings of the police department. So maybe Nathan, if you're still tuned in, maybe you can weigh in, give some thoughts on that. But I think that's something that I have heard in the past, that why don't the good officers call out the bad ones?
Okay, I have a question since you mentioned that.
Maybe they're in fear of retaliation too.
Let's just say that something is done and the officer is actually the one involved. Will they receive the same? Will they want the same speaking out, or would this officer receive the same attention as a regular citizen as per what they have done and the
I think just go look at the media. They've done that.
Well, Nathan,
they put them on blast.
Well, Nathan weighs in. He said, "Good cops hate bad cops just as much as anyone else."
And probably the good cops got to follow the rules when it comes to talking about those. So
well,
that's
again,
probably why you don't hear about it.
Well, again, like I said, at least here in Jonesboro, from because I don't know, like I said, all the internals, I won't pretend to know, but like with the officer that was terminated because of the auto fuel theft, I mean, so the chief does have a record of disciplining officers that have misconduct. So hopefully that will continue to happen.
Well, the most recent shooting, because I know it talked about a different span of time. The most recent shooting was when?
It was last week.
Last week. So of course.
This week, wasn't it? It was this week.
What
was the exact date on it? I think it was Tuesday night.
The editorial was on the 12th, so it had to been it was right afterwards.
It was like a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night.
And I know that the one person wanted to know the different sides of town and what are they known for.
Yeah, that was a question.
Well, we got about 45 seconds. We'll come back on the other side of the break and talk about that. You're tuned to Our Thoughts on the Matter on this special homecoming day. Be sure to come out and support them Red Wolves so they can get that victory over Coastal Carolina. Shout out to my cousin Isaiah Flowers who made homecoming court. So it's all good. We'll be back. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Our Thoughts on the Matter on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Black Health Now. There's nothing new about tattoos, but getting them can be riskier for your health than ever. Before you go under the ink pen, consider these negatives of permanent body art. Infection at the tattoo site, allergic reaction to the tattooing method or dye used, scarring that can include raised scar tissue also known as keloids, infectious diseases like hepatitis B and C, tetanus or HIV if unsterilized equipment is used. Remember, tattoos are permanent. The words or design you love today may be an embarrassment a few years from now. And depending on where they are on your body, they could interfere with your options for jobs or professional advancement. A less risky option for body art is henna. It's temporary and safer. I'm Alexis Comer for Black Health Now. Black Health Now.
Black Health Now is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Black Health Now is made possible by CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated, counseling individuals and groups of all ages. 1-866-972-1268. LSCIHelp.com.
The McDaniel Law Firm, 400 South Main Street in Jonesboro, is a firm believer in justice and equality for the minority community. The McDaniel Law Firm has fought for our rights for over 44 years. The McDaniel Law Firm offers legal help for wrongful death as well as trucking and automobile accidents. Bobby and Brett McDaniel are available for a free consultation at 870-336-4747 or at www.mcdaniellawyers.com.
And now back to Our Thoughts on the Matter on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back to our thoughts on the matter with on KLK 102.5 FM. We're wrapping up our topics. We've been talking about the gun violence in Jonesboro. And going back to our Facebook Live feed, Nathan Coleman says there is a difference between a bad cop and an officer that makes a mistake. Everyone, even police, are allowed due process. And that's fair. I mean, like we were saying off break, innocent until proven guilty. But a lot of times, especially in the court of public opinion, it's the other way around.
Yes.
And
100%.
And that approach should be taken to solving cases and dealing with the community, innocent until proven guilty, and not just a witch hunt or a manhunt because you have one lead and you want to hurry up and solve this case. If you have evidence and it's for real evidence and it leads to closing of a case, not just only that, but also maybe a little going back and making sure that it's not something that once you close this case, you don't care anymore about what happens with this family.
Well, let me just add a little something to that. Now, a lot of that also falls on the prosecuting attorney because the police, they'll build the initial case, they'll make the arrest, but after that, they turn over to the prosecutor. And then if there's an error, something that didn't go right, then it's on the prosecutor to
decide
to take it from there. I mean, because once the police do the initial arrest, their job is done. And it's forwarded to the court system, and that's where your redress and your recourse comes then.
And so, again, the court topic we talked about all day so far has been that yes, we have had kind of a surge in gun violence, and the last couple of ones, there's information that hasn't been brought forward, and the police need help. If you know of information, I mean, this is just a request. I mean, help your community out. All these actions, they have ripple effects. They're going to ripple out, and they're going to affect far more things than just what's on the surface. And if you don't want things like this in your community to continue, as Cato said, be the change you want to see. Yeah. If you want to see change in your community and you have the ability to, in a positive way, do that. And if that means you need to provide information about what happened in your community, I think your community deserves that.
And not just this crime, because there are other crimes that do happen. Yeah.
But in general, I mean, don't be afraid to speak out, even if it means that you might be going against something you strongly
be the bigger
believe.
Person.
Yeah, I mean, you need to look for the greater good.
And also, I just want to add to that too. Also, look out for yourselves and your neighbors. Communicate with each other. I think one thing I think we can all agree, because I have to admit I'm guilty of this as well. We don't really get to know our neighbors. I have to admit, in my small 7-unit apartment complex, I don't know everybody that stays there. So I guess I need to start with the man in the mirror, like Michael Jackson said. But I think if we get to know our neighbors and communicate more, then things like this will go down, because then there will come that investment in the community. And then also, like Chief LA says, look after your property and your belongings. Don't leave your cars unlocked. Don't leave that nice bit of electronics or a Yeti cooler or whatever is hot and popular right now, iPhone 10 that ain't came out yet or whatever, in plain view for to be an easy target.
And one other thing to say about this, if you have a stigma against the law enforcement, help them do good. If you want to see your law enforcement do good and you have a stigma against them, maybe give them the tools to help them do good. Don't be a resistance.
Now, when it comes to getting stuff took care of, whatever the reason, because we don't know the reasons behind any of this. We just know what happened. So that also, to me, sheds a light on something is going on around here, and it didn't cause just one incident. It was either multiple separate, or like Mr. Chu was talking about, it seems like it all might have been one thing. We don't know that, but who's to know when the next time it's going to happen? And I'm thinking that's why they want people to come forward before any.
And I guarantee you somebody has that info and they're holding it back.
And you guys out there, if anything is going on, definitely there has to be a way whether you can go talk to a pastor at one of the churches, a counselor that someone that, even if you know someone that works in a facility where they help you deal with the things that's going on, there has to be a way other than just bringing out a gun and deciding that you want to handle it that way. We have, as a city, we have to be able to offer some resolution to if there is a situation that could otherwise turn volatile or deadly.
Right.
You know, you don't want people going so far as to shooting up in houses and things like that. You don't want it to turn into something more.
Because bullets have no names.
Yes. So whatever it is.
And they will travel far.
Whatever it is, what could we do? Like, what does our city have to offer if someone says, hey, this is the issue I have with this person and something's going to go wrong, other than going to an officer and possibly going to jail if a person may not want that legal attention, that prevention.
Amanda, you look like you're in deep thought there.
I was listening to what she was saying, but also we need to step back and look. You're talking about somebody involved in a crime
before.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brad was talking about prevention. Before, you know, we want people to tell, but whether
hey, this is what's going on. I need an officer here, such and such time.
I need some intervention before it gets to that point.
Because we all talk when bad things happen, we all play damage control, but why not be preventative? And that's what needs to happen. Is we need to prevent things like this from going forward.
If you have a priest, well, if there's a pastor that you know of, you know, which one of you out there will actually allow someone to come in, and if there is an uprising within your community, will allow these ones to come in and actually voice out what's going on and handle it before anything more happens. We have the turning your gun program and things like that. That's part of something, but the other part is the problem, the actual problem that's happening, that's causing all this to turn into violence. What is going on with that, and what can they do to get some help with that within the community? Who can they turn to? What is gang violence? Who can you turn to other than police? And you don't, obviously there's an issue of mistrust or untrust. What else do you have?
Well, I won't claim to have all the solutions, but the only thing that I can think of is people just have to come together again. Like I said, there's strength in numbers. When people come together, then things can happen. I mean,
stand up to the bully.
And I'll just put it this way. I think, at least in the city of Jonesboro, when it comes to things like property issues and things, and when people feel very or even like last week's topic about the shelter, whether you agreed or disagreed, but you saw what happens when people come together to voice opinion. Things can happen. Like I said, you may agree with what they did or disagree with what they did, but when people come together, no matter for what cause, things can happen. So I would just say for people to come together, because when people come together, again, things can happen.
Yes, and sometimes before, like when you have a problem, they tell you as soon as you figure that something's wrong, you go to your doctor. You know, they'll tell you to go and seek some help very soon, whether it's something that's going on mentally. It may be a person that has something going on, they're taking it out on their neighbor, and now they're in the news and a life is lost. We have to have something to offer people for whatever the reason that they're going through this.
Yeah, some form of counsel.
Yes, some form of counsel.
Yep. No, I agree.
All right.
Other than a jail cell.
Sometimes a sounding board helps.
All right, let's end on a light-hearted note.
Yes.
Who's going to the game? Who's going to homecoming?
I'm going.
I'm driving by.
Well, I'll be there.
It all depends on a birthday party. I'm there in spirit.
We also want to send a shout out to Brother Cobbs, who I guess could not make it. Also, Quetta Cunningham, who is with her sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha. And, of course, to our own Mrs. Farrell, who is recovering from knee replacement surgery. I'll get well soon, Mrs. Farrell. We look forward to having you back soon. But
yes.
Make sure that
everybody have a wonderful, safe weekend. It is actually bright and sunny and rather warm.
It's 89 which is round up, 90 degrees outside.
Is there something
90 degrees October 14th.
That's right. I believe it's supposed to be a high.
I don't
know. There are different parts of it. Strong Turner is hosting one at the Hilton. I believe there is one at the Vault for the people younger than us. And of course, the various clubs, restaurants, and different venues around town will have events. But wherever you decide to go, remember, don't drink and drive. Get a designated driver.
Call
safe.
Uber.
Be safe, you guys.
Call Uber.
Or I think they got Lyft here too now.
Don't they have the thing downtown, the shuttle?
Oh yeah, the downtown shuttle is running.
And actually, the downtown shuttle is running for the game too. They will pick you up and take you to the game and back.
Is Jet doing it also?
I don't
know.
Yes,
Jet is, because there was. I remember.
Y'all have
Bill sent a press release about it. So
have a good and safe weekend.
Yes,
Let's go Red Wolves.
Love you guys. Love you, cousin.
All right. Thank you to each and every one of you that tuned in on our Facebook live feed. We'll be back next week. This is Our Thoughts on the Matter, and this is KLEK 102.5 FM. Go Red Wolves.
Thank you for listening to our Thoughts on the Matter on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program offering opinions from all sides of the issues concerning local, state, and national topics of importance to the Jonesboro community. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, donors, or sponsors.
KLEK LP, Jonesboro, the voice.